Influencers ruined Fashion Week. This topic has come up quite a bit because of New York Fashion Week that happened last week. But if we're being quite honest, why do we think that? When we ourselves have given influencers the platform and the power to influence people. The whole reason why New York Fashion Week even exists is because of press. People wanted designers to be able to showcase their design in collections of clothes, so the masses will go out and buy it. And what better person to do that than an influencer who has millions and millions of followers who will buy anything that they recommend, simply because they have the influence. But I would love to start at the beginning. What's New York Fashion Week, or what even is Fashion Week? Fashion Week is a fashion industry event lasting approximately 1 week where fashion designers, brands, and houses display their latest collections and runway shows to the media and buyers. These events are usually influenced by the upcoming fashion trends of the current and upcoming seasons. The most prominent fashion events are held in the fashion capitals of the world, such as New York, London, Milan, and Paris, aka the Big Four. But also note that during the 2010s, the globalization of fashion contributed to the rise of more non-traditional fashion cities to significant relevance in the fashion calendars, such as Shanghai, Tokyo, Berlin, and Madrid. So the history of New York Fashion Week, it dates back to 1943, and of course New York, created by a woman named Eleanor Lambert. This was during World War II, so it was very difficult for American press and buyers to get to France since Germany occupied France during this time. So at this time, France was known as the fashion epicenter of the world. This is where buyers and press would go to travel to France to know what's trending, what's gonna be hot, what was going to be the next big thing in fashion, essentially. Since travel wasn't feasible at this time, Eleanor Lambert took it upon herself to create New York Fashion Week, but at the time she called it Press Week. So this was the perfect opportunity for America to become a fashion force within the fashion world. So Eleanor Lambert's plan was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. She hired press from New York and other cities to come and see American local designers at the Broadway Plaza Hotel. The plan worked. It was a success. American designers were being taken seriously, and they were being recognized by some notable magazines such as Vogue. And then 2 years later, in 1945, Ruth Finley had created the fashion calendar. She took the task of coordinating the fashion calendar so designer showtimes wouldn't clash, and she provided pink page schedules for everyone. So the development of New York Fashion Week over time had increased with their packed schedule shows that helped solidify America as a serious fashion force. The shows just kept getting bigger and bigger. In the 70s, it was all about the glitz and the glam, and then in the 80s, the music got louder, the shoulders got broader, and then in the 90s, it got a bit hectic. For example, in 1991, Michael Kors had a runway show where the ceiling was falling on people. Bits of the ceiling were falling on the press, so people were upset about that, obviously. Bern Malice at the time was the director of the CFDA, and he thought that New York Fashion Week needed to go in a new direction and ultimately a new location, which landed New York Fashion Week shows in Bryant Park to host the majority of their shows. And then in the 2000s, new possibilities and challenges arose with streetwear and blogging, social media, the internet becoming global phenomenons. It ultimately changed the nature of Fashion Week, changing and expanding the way Fashion Week was broadcasted, showcased, and spread. So now the topic has come up ever since influencers, content creators have been invited to New York Fashion Week. People love to ask if New York Fashion Week is dead, or say things such as New York Fashion Week is a mess, that it's not the same, it's boring, they're inviting influencers that don't even make sense. But I wouldn't say that New York Fashion Week is dead per se, because there are some parts of it that I do agree with, but I wouldn't say that New York Fashion Week is dead. And it's obviously not the same because New York Fashion Week has constantly changed and evolved from the first ever New York Fashion Week. It wasn't even called New York Fashion Week, it was even called Press Week, and that was 80 years ago. But I think with this year's conversation with influencers such as the Ariana Grande impersonator or people that were crashing New York Fashion Week. I do understand some points where people aren't taking it seriously. I feel like in those cases, these people, they're doing it for shock value. I don't think these people should necessarily be in these conversations just because I don't think they actually care about fashion. Granted, I don't know these people, and so I'm just making an observation. But the whole point of Fashion Week was for American editors to be at the forefront of new and upcoming designs from American designers, so people know what's going to be trending and what to look out for the next upcoming seasons. If you think about it, isn't that what, you know, influencers do? They create content, but they just do it at a faster pace versus an editorial piece that does tie it back into with certain influencers, how a lot of people are saying that these influencers don't make sense as to why they're being invited to these shows, simply because they don't make fashion content or they're not known for their fashion. It's not making sense. Do their viewers, followers, or subscribers even care about fashion? And at the end of the day, it ultimately all falls down to how New York Fashion Week essentially just wants to make money. They just want to be profitable, and they want to be able to sell what they're showcasing every year. So I believe that that's the main reason as to why they have all these influencers here, even though they might not make a lot of sense. And then we can also argue why certain celebrities go and show up to these New York Fashion Week events. For example, in the past, there have been actors like Leonardo DiCaprio who have sat first row at New York Fashion Week, but he isn't necessarily known for his fashion. But someone like Zendaya would make sense because she is known for her fashion sense. She's seen as a fashion girly. And then last year, a lot of people were shocked by the amount of TikTokers and influencers that are at Fashion Week. Ebony Brown, who is a celebrity stylist and costume designer, quotes that she understands that it's about press and having influencers at your shows, and this is how your shows are going to get more press whenever they comment and say that they were at these shows. But people who are on the inside and actually are in the fashion industry, they aren't trying to be influencers simply because they are the influence. And I think she does make a great point, because I understand it is from a business standpoint that you want people with big followings, great engagement, and a great platform to promote these shows, these events, these collections that you're trying to get people to be interested. But at the same time, I feel it's very important to be mindful about the people that you reach out to and have more intent behind it. Another TikTok creator called Taylor Made, who is a fashion model and also makes fashion content, she says it's people who need to be more mindful about who they're inviting to these things, the people that are making the list, the people who they're reaching out to. They need to have more intention behind it, because you're going into a room full of content creators or influencers versus being in a room with stylists, photographers, journalists, editors, people who are in the fashion industry or people who want to be in the fashion industry. And she made a rebuttal TikTok because people thought she meant to say that no influencers should be at New York Fashion Week, but she herself wasn't saying that per se. She was just saying that she would like to be in a room with more well-rounded people, and I feel like that's incredibly valid. The last TikTok that I got was from Steph Global, who says that influencers who have a fashion voice should be more than welcome to be at New York Fashion Week. And I feel like that is the sentiment that everyone's been trying to get at. No one is saying that influencers shouldn't be at Fashion Week. It's just, you can't necessarily use the argument that New York Fashion Week is being ruined by influencers, when in all honesty, New York Fashion Week is ruining New York Fashion Week. Even in the early 2000s, when New York Fashion Week changed its location to Bryant Park, they had sponsorship opportunities and they ended up partnering up with Mercedes-Benz, and they rebranded as Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week until 2015. I thought that Mercedes-Benz made cars. I didn't know they had anything to do with fashion.
Cause look at Gaga. She's the creative director of Polaroid. I like some of the Gaga songs. What the fuck does she know about camera?
So, in conclusion, Fashion Week's evolution in the span of 80 years is a note to its adaptability, evolution, resilience in the face of the ever-changing fashion landscape. Obviously, influencers have become a prominent part, but they haven't necessarily changed the event's core purpose. I believe that they've helped amplify the reach and engage a broader audience that aligns with New York Fashion Week's goal of garnering public interest in new designers, press, and attention, getting people interested in the new designs and upcoming fashion trends. Of course, the inclusion of celebrities and influencers who don't necessarily have a direct tie to fashion within the fashion industry, and partnerships with brands such as Mercedes-Benz, as we talked about before, that seem kind of unrelated to fashion. They raise questions about the event's commercialization. It is true that New York Fashion Week at times has welcomed celebrities simply because of their star power and got sponsorship just for money's sake, but I feel that is just the reflection of the changing dynamics of the fashion industry and the modern world that we live in. However, I believe this is a reflection of the changing dynamics of the fashion industry, and this is where the intersection of entertainment, consumption, and style has become pretty blurred. There are a lot of content creators that focus so heavily on fashion that don't necessarily get the same opportunities because of their followings. But as long as me and my fellow content creators continue to talk about this, we might find ourselves in this position of other influencers who have the right to be there. And then lastly, in the essence, New York Fashion Week's evolution is a reflection of the broad shifts within the industry of fashion and within pop culture today. And changed, it remains a platform of creativity, innovation, and celebrates designs and the celebration of designs. It has also adapted to the demands of the modern world, which is now embracing celebrities, influencers, unconventional sponsorships to remain a global powerhouse within the world of fashion. That was my video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you followed along and it made sense. Till next time, I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.